ahead and hit record here and give you a little introduction. So thank you for joining us. This is the last session of the day. We have with us today Todd Dexheimer from Venture D Properties, LLC. Todd started investing in real estate in 2008 and has purchased and renovated about 500 units. He has completed over 150 flips and currently owns $18 million in real estate comprised of 350 units across 4 states. His focus is on syndicating value-add multifamily opportunities in emerging markets. He is also the host of the podcast Pillars of Wealth Creation. Todd, thanks for joining us today, and look forward to hearing what you have. You're going to be talking to us about building, starting to build your team and getting into syndication.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I got to correct you there. Now I got more units now, so I'm about 550 now. So
awesome. When did you close on those?
Yeah. What's that?
When did you close on the last 50?
The last I closed on just over 200 units. Would have been mid-May.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's what I like to see.
Got to keep on moving, right?
That's right. So if you, I don't know if you can see the Q&A box and the chat box, so they'll be running the whole time. I kind of keep track of the Q&A box while you're talking, and then and towards the end, we'll queue you up with questions if you want to leave like a little space of time. And so your time frame, we have you from 5 to 6:15. So usually I'll come back in around, around 6 and leave about 15 minutes for question and answer. But, if you get done before then, I'll kind of be monitoring from the backside. But with no further ado, I will give it over to you.
So do you want me to open that chat box up myself or is somebody you're going to monitor that probably?
Yeah, I have it open. You should be able to see it as well, though. Sometimes it's attached. Sometimes it's a pop out.
Yeah, I'm seeing it right here. Perfect.
Okay, and then there's a Q&A separate from that. So the chat, we can just talk back and forth, and I'll put comments in there to you as well, like if I'm stepping away from the computer or something, just so you know what's going on. So.
Okay, great.
Good to go.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate everybody joining, first of all. And as Brandon already said, Todd Dexheimer with Venture D. And I've done a lot of different stuff in real estate. So I started out doing fix and flips. I did a bunch of those. I'm going to pop up a PowerPoint here too. So did a bunch of fix and flips. And now, I'm doing multifamily syndication. So, but in the meantime, I did some wholesaling. I flipped a mobile home park, 20-unit mobile home park out of state. I owned a ski resort for some time, and it sounds more special than what it is. I owned a piece of property that had a ski resort on it that was defunct. I took that piece of property with a partner, and we did a little bit of work to it, but then we sold it, made some pretty good money. So that was cool. But so it sounds more special than it was, but I got some skis and snowboards and stuff for my kids. So that was great as well. I'm going to try to, get this on a full screen so you guys can see that. So cool. All right. So as you said, I got a podcast, Pillars of Wealth Creation. We'll talk about that at the end. I'd love to have you join me on there. I'm also the owner of Coach with Dex, who do some private consulting and has had some mastermind groups. So a little bit more about me, a husband and father of 2 amazing kids. They're awesome kids. And we love the outdoors. We love camping, sports enthusiasts. So a lot of fun there. And I'm bad at PowerPoint, so forgive me. I've already basically talked about what I do. So we're going to move on. So first of all, when we're talking about building our team, I want to start from the start. When we're talking about building our team, we really want to understand what our end game is, and then that allows you to really strategize. So we want to go, okay, where are we going with this whole thing? Where are we taking our real estate business? Because your team's going to look different if you're just having a team for maybe let's call it a dozen rental units. Well, that looks a lot different than if you're trying to buy thousands of rental apartment units. If we're buying 10,000 apartment units, our team is going to look drastically, and if we're self-managing those or managing them in-house, our team's drastically different than if we're hiring even third-party management for those 10,000 units. And it's even more different, of course, than if we're just going to have 10 duplexes or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with any strategy. We just have to know, okay, which one's for us? And are we going to be doing this full-time, part-time? What does it look like? So that's really important. Know your end game. And then it allows you to dissect it in order to achieve the best possible outcome. In order to really build our team, we have to be able to dissect it and then break it down. And what we want to do then before we go, okay, let's say I'm going to own 10,000 apartment units. Okay, great. I'm going to own 10,000 apartment units. So we don't want to sit here and go, okay, if I'm going to own 10,000 apartment units, I've got to get all these partners in. And so we get this big list of partners. And then what do we do from there? Okay, do we start just going after these partners? Well, probably not. 10,000 units, great. That's going to take us a little while. So we don't need every key player involved in that. I don't need a 1031 specialist if I'm going to buy today and not sell for 15 years. I don't need that person on my team right now. Is it okay to talk to those types of people? Sure, it's always good to build relationships, but they don't need to be part of your mainstay. I don't need to be interviewing a CFO on my first day of my new business before I've even purchased property. It doesn't make any sense. Are they going to be a part of my company? Yes, eventually. An asset manager, are they going to become part of my company? Yes, eventually. But I don't need to be concerned about that type of stuff right now. So we really want to understand, okay, where are we going to go and where are we today? And then be able to map out that plan so we understand what team members are important today, what team members are important tomorrow, and what team members are going to be a long ways away that we don't really need to fog our minds with. All right, so PowerPoint, come on now. There we go. I don't know why it's not letting me use my mouse. So what is growing a team really for? When I started, I was doing pretty much everything, right? I did have some realtors help me out. I had a lender, of course, to help me get a loan, but I was doing like pretty much everything myself. I was pounding the nails. I was, doing my own bookkeeping. I was doing all the searching of the properties, underwriting all the properties, doing everything myself, every step of the way, basically. And continuing to do that wouldn't have allowed me to grow. So by building a team, it's going to allow you to really focus on building and growing that business. And that's going to be extremely important, right? If you want to get to that larger, especially that larger scale. But even if you want just 10 duplexes or 20 duplexes or something like that, and to create that time freedom, we have to still build a team and build systems. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to go on vacation. I'm going to Europe for a few weeks at the end of the summer. And guess what? I'm not going to, I probably still have some worries, but I'm going to be able to actually go there and enjoy myself because I've got things set up to allow me to do that. And other people do it way better than me. And the more freedom you want, the more systems and more people you need to be involved and have that really built well. So it gives you the freedom to do what you want and when you want, and allows you to step away, if not forever, but at least for a while. Maybe you want to take a month vacation. Maybe you just want to step away from that aspect of the business and be able to focus on building another portion of your business. So it doesn't necessarily say you're going to retire from it, but maybe we want to be able to focus on building some other things. Well, if we haven't built our teams, if we haven't hired the right people, the wheels are going to come off. And so we want to make sure, that's set up the right way as well. So we've already kind of talked about it, but timing, in my opinion, when you first start, you're going to want to do a lot of it your own. And that's fine, because quite frankly, you're probably not going to have the money to hire a bunch of people out. And so you're going to have to do it your own. And it's a good learning experience too. So that's really important, is you want to learn as you go. And if you've done a lot of that stuff, well, now you know the expectations. The cool thing about doing some of the stuff yourself right away is you can create good, solid job and task lists. So I would encourage everybody, no matter what you're doing, be writing it down and keeping track of it. And then you want to dissect some of those things and get them into kind of job lists. And those are going to expand as time goes on. But that's the easiest way, in my opinion, to hire that first person is we'll have a job list already. So who do you start with? I would say start with an assistant or a partner. Easiest thing for me to get rid of was my bookkeeping and some of my smaller kind of menial tasks. Those were the easiest things for me to get rid of. The other easiest thing was the contracting. Like I said, I was pounding. I was doing all of the construction. Well, that was easy because I could just hire subcontractors to come in and do that work. Now, in the meantime, even after I gave that up, I was still doing a lot of stupid stuff that I shouldn't have been doing, like driving materials to job sites and being the contractor, being at the job pretty much every single day. So hire as much out as quickly as possible. So again, you can do it all yourself, but find others to hire out quickly. In order to scale, you've got to get rid of it as quickly as you can. So the other thing is hire before you think you're ready. You might not be 100% ready, but if you always wait till you're 100% ready, you're going to get to those plateaus where you just stop and you can't continue to grow. Now, you don't want to grow too fast, but you do want to allow yourself to continue to grow gradually and climb instead of having these plateaus and maybe even downfalls because you didn't hire early enough and now you get so busy that the wheels kind of come off. The other thing I would say about hiring is use subcontractors. Take advantage of volunteers. Now, volunteers are tricky, and I don't want to get too far into volunteers, but volunteers are tricky because oftentimes they suck a lot of your time away and you're training them. And then the second they get decent at it or good enough, they go away, right? So volunteers can be tricky, but interns are great. Volunteers are great if you handle them properly. And then the other thing is commission-based or sales. That's a great way to hire because it's based on performance. And hey, if they don't do their job, they don't get paid. If they're making you money, they're finding you deals. If they're doing whatever those tasks are that are going to make you money, that's a great way to do things because you don't have to pay them unless money comes in, which is always important for a business that's just starting. So before we even hire somebody, we want to build some systems, right? We want to make sure we streamline things. Here's what I suggest doing. And I can't take credit of this, and I wish I remembered who I should be giving credit to, because quite frankly, I can't remember who told me this. But what you should be doing is, especially for a few week period of time, is taking and writing down what you do each day. So take and write down everything you do and write down the description. Try to be as detailed as possible and what you do. And then take 30 minutes at the end of the day after you've written all those tasks. Make sure you go through them, write down anything that's missing, and then grade those tasks. So give them a 1 through 10. 1 being, that job sucks, I hate it, and I never want to do it again. Or I'm really, really, really bad at that job, and it doesn't make any sense for me to do. To a 10 being, I love doing this, and I would do this every single day, 24/7, if I could stay awake and actually be going 24/7. What you want to do is you want to get rid of the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s as quickly as humanly possible. You want to get rid of the 4s, the 5s, and the 6s next. And then eventually you want to get rid of the 7s and the 8s and maybe even the 9s. But you want to keep those top tier things, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, you want to keep those in your life, in your business, because, hey, wouldn't it be cool to wake up every day and do everything that you want to do that day and only the things you want to do? On your list, on your time blocking list, you've got 0 things there that you go, ugh, I wish I didn't have to do that. That would be really cool. And that's what we all want to achieve. And what else that does is writing things down. It helps you create processes, helps you create job lists so that your business can maintain without you. And that's super important. And this is always going to be evolving. So it's not like this is a one-time thing. This should be maybe a once a year type of thing where we write things down, because I guarantee you'll get to those 9, 8, 9s, and 10s, and then you'll start adding some 1s and 2s that you got rid of, and now new 1s and 2s come onto your list. So you want to do it again. So that's really important. When we're starting out, we want to think big. And even as we're going, we want to think big. I've got 550 units, which is big for some of you listening, but it's also small for others of you listening and for others that you know. So I'm not thinking 550 units is all I want to be. I want to get bigger and I want to continue to grow, but I had to start somewhere. So you want to start small, scale as quickly as possible, get just outside of your comfort zone at all the time. And most importantly, be sure that you start and always be thinking big. And that's going to help you try to think about the types of team members that you're going to need. Okay. And I wish my cursor works. Build relationships. Okay, super important. Before we start hiring, and even as we're hiring, surround yourself with other successful people. Surround yourself with people that you can add value to and that can add value to you. But you want to make sure you're adding value to them. Focus on them, not on you, and build purposeful relationships, especially when we're talking about some important team members like brokers and property managers and appraisers, lenders. There's so many important people that are going to be involved in your business. Be sure you're focusing on them and adding value. Look, it's a super tight market right now, right? It's hard to find good deals, super hard to find good deals. And we see deals, I see deals. Everybody probably listening sees deals that you scratch your head and wonder how anybody bought that. But we're not looking for those deals, right? Because you're good and you're looking for the good deals. And in order to find the good deals, what do you have to have? You have to build purposeful relationships with the property management companies that can bring you deals, with the brokers that can bring you deals, and with any other people around that can bring you deals. And you want to make sure you stay in contact with them. Okay, so make sure you don't lose that contact. What separates you from the other investors is going to be the relationships that you're able to build and hugely maintain. And that's really important. Okay. Always ask for referrals. That's super important. So when we're talking about building your team, your realtors, your lenders, your property managers, your contractors, mentors, passive investors, appraisers, accountants, attorneys, inspectors, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on, and I'll have a full list at the end here. We want to make sure that we're always asking for referrals. So I invest in out-of-state markets, right? And I come into a market and I don't know people. Right? I've done my research. I've done my due diligence. I know that the market's got the right fundamentals for me. It's got everything that I'm looking for, but I've got to see, can I actually build a team? And sometimes the answer is no, quite frankly. There's markets out there that I really like that I have just not been able to get that traction to build the right team. Maybe the property managers, typically that's who's holding me back, is I can't seem to find good property management company in that city. And there might not be any good third-party property management. If I'm investing out of state, that's what I need until I build a big enough presence, at least in my opinion, to be able to go on my own. So if I can't find good team members, I may just say, you know what, this market might be as good as gold to somebody that's local, but for me coming in, I can't find the right team. I don't want to be a part of this market. There's other markets that are just as good or very close that I can build the right team. So that's super important, is making sure you can build the right team. And you can always do it, but it just might be more effort than what's worth at sometimes, at least for me. Okay. So what I come into when I'm going into a new market is I'm going to contact, usually it's the real estate brokers first, because they're the easiest to find, right? We can go on to LoopNet. We can look at LoopNet and see who's there and see a couple people. And those aren't, I'm not saying those are the deals you want to be looking at, but those are properties, or those are brokers, I mean, that you can reach out to and talk to. And then, of course, we can look at the big brokerages. We can look for the CBRE. We can look for the ARA Newmark. We can look for Colliers and Cushman Wakefield and Marcus and Millichap and so on. And we can find brokers in that market. And when I find those brokers, which is very easy again, I can start then calling them and asking for referrals. And I don't want to be a referral like just a hound. I want to build a little bit of relationship with them first. Again, relationships are key to this whole business. So build that relationship a little bit and then say, hey, by the way, I really like our conversation that we had. I'm excited about the market. Do you have any referrals for property managers, lenders? Maybe you ask them for even a few others. Okay, maybe you ask them for one or two things. I wouldn't take your whole list and ask one person to fill out your whole list, but I would ask them for a couple referrals. And then I would call those referrals, and I would call the property management companies and the lenders and the contractors and whoever else. And I would then do the exact same thing with them. I would build a relationship with them. Again, when I'm talking about building a relationship with your first call, it doesn't mean you have to sit there and get to know them and shake their hand and drink tea with them. You're having a short conversation, and then you can follow it up by an email. Typically is how I like to ask for referrals, because it's written. Just say, hey, I appreciate the conversation. It was great to meet you today. Really excited about the market. And let's say you're talking with a property manager. You got that referral from a broker. You say, property manager, hey, who are some of the brokers I should really be reaching out to find deals? Who are some of the lenders that you prefer that I should be reaching out to? Maybe who are some of the inspectors, contractors, and so on. So those are great people, again, to get referrals to. And you'll go through this list, and what will end up happening is you start to see the same names several times. And those are typically the ones that you're going to kind of get to know and probably will be on your team. Now, what I would hesitate to say, or what I don't want to imply here, is that let's say we get ABC Property Management Company and seven brokers say, hey, call ABC Property Management Company. They're the ones that you want to talk to. And you call ABC, but ABC just rubs you the wrong way. Maybe they just don't jive with you. Maybe they've got a different philosophy from you. Maybe they got a different set of ethics and values than you. Don't do business with people that don't fit and align with you. Super important. Just because they were referred to you by a lot of other people doesn't mean they're the right fit for you. So make sure when you're building your team, and this goes for employees too, when you're hiring people, make sure they fit you, they fit your personality and align with your goals. If they don't, they're not worth hiring. Trust me, it's going to be more of a pain in the butt. Okay. So I ranted a lot for there, but this slide, find partners, find active partners, and find passive partners. So we're talking about active partners being your brokers, your lenders, your property managers, contractors. I would call, more of your passive partners being your money partners, your mentors. You can also find active partners as a actual partner that you start your company with or bring into your company. And then the other partners are your employees. Make sure you're hiring people in order to multiply your efforts, and hire quality people. And we'll talk about, how to hire in just a second. All right. Well, just a second is here. All right. So hiring mistakes, I've made a lot. I've hired people, and if you don't do it right, you're going to end up hiring the wrong person. So I've taken shortcuts. I've done a lot of mistakes, and hopefully you can learn from some of those. So for me, for my very first employee, I really didn't run through the interview process. I didn't post the job properly. I did post the job, but I had a few people come in and we interviewed them, and I already pretty much pre-picked the person I was going to hire. So I didn't really fully go through that interview process. I didn't take the time to truly put together a complete job task, job list for the people I was interviewing either. And I didn't hire the person with the best personality, the person that fit my company the best. Who I hired was somebody who I felt was the most qualified. And in my opinion, that's a big mistake, because do you want somebody that's smart? Yeah. Do you want somebody that has a good personality? Absolutely. So if you hire somebody that's smart, that can learn, and has an amazing personality that fits you and your company, and it has goals that align with your company, that's the person you want to hire. Not the person that's maybe got the best pedigree, has a terrible attitude potentially. Who knows? Just, the first person that I hired, I would say just had a poor attitude. I knew that they weren't going to be probably sticking around a long time. Their location wasn't very good. I wanted them at our office, and they were driving about 50 minutes just to get to the office. And I was paying, I can't remember at the time what I was paying, but let's call it $15 an hour. Well, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't work. And so there was several things that were wrong with it. The personality didn't fit with my company. Okay. I'm one type of personality, and I hired probably the complete opposite type of personality. So big mistakes. Again, hire good personalities that are the right fit for you, and hire people with a positive attitude. I think that is one of the most critical things, is when you're hiring people, hire people with a positive attitude, with a growth and abundance mindset. Those are really, in my opinion, extremely important. The other thing is, don't wait too long to hire. Big mistake is you wait too long to hire. And the other thing is you wait too long to fire. And that's not hiring mistakes, of course, but you wait too long oftentimes to fire. And my second employee, both of them, I knew they weren't the right fit for my company, but I didn't fire them nearly soon enough. Actually, my first one, I let her walk out the door. I waited until she walked out the door, and I knew it was coming, and I was actually hoping it was coming. And that's the wrong attitude to take. If they're not the right fit, just fire them. And it might sound bad, but here's the reality of it. If you fire somebody because they're not the right fit, they probably knew they weren't the right fit a long time before you even. And they maybe stayed in that position just because they were comfortable. And that's never the right reason to stay in a position, but that's what a lot of people do. So firing somebody oftentimes, and more often than not, I believe, is a blessing for both you and for the person that you're firing. It may sting them right now, but in the end, it ends up being the best thing probably for both people. And I think that is the majority of the time. So I can tell you right now, I have waited too long to fire people on very, very many occasions, and it never works out. For instance, contractors. Contractors are probably the ones I've done it the most to, where I've got a contractor in the property, and for whatever reason, maybe they're taking too long, maybe their craftsmanship is bad, maybe they're just not showing up, or show up drunk to the job. I've never had that before. So whatever it might be, they're not the right contractor. And I don't have another contractor to hire to come into the job to keep on working. And so what do? Is I slowly look for somebody to hire, but I take my sweet, sweet time, and I don't fire the contractor. And the only thing that does is delays the inevitable, makes everybody unhappy, and slows down the project. And my thought many times was, well, if I get rid of them, then nobody's there. And so even if they get just a little bit done every day, I know they're not showing up on time. I know not much is getting done, but you know what? If I get rid of them, nothing gets done. And if I keep them, at least a little bit gets done. But that's the wrong way to think about it, because I guarantee you, the second you get rid of them, you are searching long and hard and fast to find somebody to replace them, where if they're there just kind of flailing along, it's going to take you longer to hire somebody, and it's just not going to work out as well. And you want to be true to yourself, right? Get rid of them if they're not working. That's just how it needs to be. Make it your company's policy. You want a company that runs and operates the right way. You don't want to do it the wrong way. So do it right from the beginning. How do you avoid hiring the wrong people? We'll talk about that next. But one of the biggest things, in my opinion, is clear communication, right? You've got to communicate clearly. So from the very start, they have to know what your company culture is. They have to know and understand what your expectations are, what your goals are, where you're taking the company. And they need to be excited about that. They need to have that positive attitude. Like I said, they need to have an abundance mindset and understand where you're going and embrace it and like it. You need to, though, have an extremely detailed job description. You need to not expect, and this is one of my downfalls, is I just expect them to know what I want. It's in my brain. Like, for me, it's easy, right? And for you, it's probably the same. It's easy. You know what you want. You probably did it before, so you just expect them to do it. Make a detailed list, refine it, go through that with them, make sure it's all written down. It's easy to tell somebody something to do, but if you don't write it down, you cannot get mad at them when they don't do it. It's just how it is. So give them that detailed list, and again, review it, and always be challenging them to improve upon it. I think that's really important. Give them a lot of responsibility. Allow them to make mistakes and learn from them and change it, and give them positive feedback. Like, hey, you know what? You tried this, it didn't work. What could we try the next time in order for it to work? If you can communicate like that, you're going to have a lot better experience with the people that you're hiring than if you just get pissed off at them and don't lead them the right way. Your job as an employer is to lead them and communicate with them, and get them, though, to take also responsibility and leadership, and to be able to grow and expand your business. I mean, that's the most important part, right? Is that's what you're hiring them for. Let them do that. So what are some hiring tips? I'm going to take a drink of water here so I don't stutter too much. What are some hiring tips? Have a clear list of job tests and criteria. And I've already said that. And communicate often. I think the more communication, the better. I think asking them also, like, hey, what do you think could be improved? That's really empowering to them. And that's going to make them really want to be better at their job, you know. And hey, you know, one thing that's hard for me is to ask people how things are going. And I don't know why it is. I'm not, you know, that's not my personality. So one of the things I have to try to slow down and stop and do is say, hey, how are things going? What things are working and what things aren't working? You know, ask them, are you being challenged in your job? Everybody wants to be challenged, or most people want to be challenged. Are you being challenged in your job? And if the answer is no, like, what can we do to challenge you, to help you grow and help you be satisfied? Are you satisfied in this job? How are things going? Are they going okay? Those are really important things to be asking as you hire somebody and after you hire somebody. So the other thing prior to hiring is building a strong brand. having that strong identity and feeling and culture of who your company is. If you don't have that, if they don't know who your company is and they're going through that hiring process, what are they really looking for? You want good employees. You want employees that want to work for your company, that are excited for your company. You don't want employees that are just there to collect a paycheck. So if there's no brand, if there's no identity or feeling of who your company is, are they really going to be excited to go to work? Well, you have no clue because you don't even know why they took the job. Likely they just took the job because they want money. And that's never a good motivator. Money can only motivate for so long. And then we always want more. So you're always going to be giving them raises and more raises and more raises, which you should be. But if that's the only driver, it's just not going to last that long. So you want them to be excited about who your company is, what it stands for, and everything about it. So make sure you build that brand, build the culture, build that feeling of identity. And then, more importantly, when you hire them, make sure they're a part of that. Make sure they are feeling that, and make sure they can make that part of their mantra, part of what they want. So I've already talked about this part. Hire slow. Again, don't take too long to hire. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying wait to hire. Always hire slightly before you're ready, but then fire quickly. And again, never, ever wait to fire. It's never the right answer. And then I've already said this too, hire quality people, not necessarily the most trained people, but the highest quality people that you possibly can, the right personality. You can always train people. You can't train personality, or it's very hard to train personality, but you can always train people how to do things as long as you're willing to learn. All right. So we're actually getting close to the end. I'm going a little faster than I thought I would, but hey, that's all right. Building your power team. So how do you build your power team? Figure out what your weaknesses are and fill the gaps, right? That's super important. You want to be filling the gaps of your weaknesses. You're only good at a couple things. You might think you're good at everything, but you're not. You're only good at a few things. So pick the things that A, you're good at, and B, that really, really drive and excite you. And then fill in the gaps. Maybe you're really good at underwriting, but you don't like to do the underwriting. Maybe that's boring to you. Well, then why do the underwriting? Don't do the underwriting. Have somebody that you hire that does the initial underwriting. And then since you're good at it, maybe you want to be the person that does the check boxes and make sure that that underwriting is done properly and that the property works. But if that's not what drives you, well, then don't do it, right? Maybe you're really good at raising money and you enjoy that. Well, then you should do that. You should be out there building those relationships, doing that task. So do stuff that you not only love to do, but that you're good at. That's going to really help you. And then fill the gaps with others that can fill those voids that you either don't want to do or that you're not good at. Find team members that align with your goals. I've talked about that. I think I've said that like 10 times already, but that's super important that you find people that align with your goals and are going to get you to where you need to go. And I've said it earlier, make sure you're adding value to them. I think that's probably one of the, that's not stated enough, is you want to add value to other people, because there's only people only want to be used so much, right? And eventually they want something in return. And can you provide that something in return? So make sure you're providing value to them before you expect them to provide value to you. Really, really important. And some people may never provide the value to you that you're hoping for, but you know what? That's okay. Everybody's not going to provide the value you want, but if you just make that part of who you are, you're going to get a lot ahead a lot faster and be a lot more successful. So find team members that are smarter and more skilled than you. We want to find people that are smarter than us. Definitely don't want to be the smartest person in my company. I want people that are way smarter than me. If you look at the majority of the successful companies, at least one of the partners or founders are the kind of the imagination behind the business. They're not the smartest, but they are the ones that are driving the vision of the business. Continue to evaluate the team and replace them as needed. That's really important, right? You might be starting out buying duplexes. And if you're buying duplexes, there's no sense to talk to the top multifamily broker in your city. There's no sense to talk to a guy or gal who's selling 200 unit, 25 million plus buildings. Why talk to them? You're buying duplexes. You might want to talk to them, but why build that relationship, right? Why make that your main focus? You want to focus on those realtors that are selling the duplexes, the fourplexes, maybe some of the smaller stuff, and that are really good at it and that can get you really good deals. And as you grow and expand, then it's time to start really focusing on those relationships with the larger, the guys that are selling, gals that are selling larger properties. So we want to evaluate our team constantly and understand who's on our team. As you grow, as you change your strategies, you've got different people that are going to be a part of your team. You're going to replace some of them and you're going to add new ones. You might keep some of the old ones, but you're always going to be adding and replacing. And so you need to keep those relationship doors open. And again, always start before you need to. I wouldn't wait to talk to the top brokers until the day you want to put an offer in. I would be honing those relationships, but it's okay to say, look, here's where I'm at and here's where I'm heading. In my opinion, that's okay. As long as you're talking to them about your expectations and where you're at and being open with them. I think that's just fine to say. The big thing is having backups. I think this is really important for certain people, right? For property management company, for instance, you might have a property management company that is working with you on your properties, and maybe you like them a lot, but what happens if things start to go sideways? I was just talking with an attorney in one of the markets, and he was talking about a property management company, and one of the owners passed away, and that property management company is now struggling. They're no longer doing very well. And it's an unfortunate event, but you don't want that to really derail your property. So if you have a backup or two property management companies that okay, if something happens, if all of a sudden the performance of the property goes south, I want to be able to quickly pivot and fire and rehire. And that's super important. Contractors, I'll give you for instance, right now, I did a bad job. I'm not following my advice. I've got a plumber, and I like and respect the guy, but he's busy right now. He's going on vacation. He can't get to one of our properties, and we need him there now. Well, I don't have a backup plumber, and that's my mistake. That's my fault because my company doesn't have a plumber that can be the backup. I didn't build a relationship with the plumber. So what's going to happen to me? I'm going to have to find a plumber. I got to go on, Facebook and ask people for referrals. I'm going to go on to go ask some of my investor friends for referrals. That's helpful. But at the same time, I'm starting a new relationship, but I need that person on my job right now. And that's a bad thing because I don't have a lot of time to interview enough people to see if they're a fit. And the other thing is I'm probably going to end up paying more than what I really should because I haven't added any value to them. They don't know who I am, and they're going to bid probably likely higher than what I otherwise could have got it done for. So I didn't do a good job. I didn't follow my own rules that I'm telling you right now. So have backups. I think that's extremely important. You don't need to necessarily tell them they're a backup or on your team or anything like that. And that's the other thing. People are like, well, how do we know we're team members? Well, you don't need to tell people you're on my team, but you need to build those relationships and be doing business with them. Then they're part of your team, and they know and understand that. But the backups, it's always just constant communication. It's talking with them. It's adding value to them. It's doing things to keep them on the top of your list and them and you on the top of their list. So, and also with certain people like contractors, it's always good to use them every once in a while, even if they're the backup. Just have them do a job here and there for you. Contractors are easy to do that. Property manager is a little more difficult. All right, so here's where the list of your power team comes in. So I'm going to just list these people off. You got it in front of you, but super important people to have. I think number one, first and foremost, is the property manager. I think that's, in my opinion, the most important aspect of real estate is how you manage your property. Are you going to be doing it? All right, that's fine if you want to do it. I'm all for that, but make sure then you have the right people in place, the right employees in place to be able to run a solid property management company. So that's part of your team, is the property manager. Who is the property manager and how strong are they? Your property will either fail or succeed depending on your property management company. I think that's the most important part. It's more important, in my opinion, than the market you choose, than the amount you pay for a property. That's the most important, is who's managing your property. Next, very important thing is a real estate broker. It's important to find deals. You can't find a deal if you don't have people helping you find deals, or if you're not out there finding deals. One of the easiest ways, quickest ways to find deals is through a real estate broker. That's what they do day in and day out, is they look for deals. They build relationships. That's their job. And you, guess what? Don't get to hire them, or don't have to hire them. You don't have to pay them an hourly wage. You only pay them when you find a property. And I know you might be saying, well, I don't pay them. The seller pays them. Well, you still pay them, right? I had a broker on my podcast the other day, and I was asking him, what are some things we need to do in order to get you on our side? And one of the things I thought was interesting that he said is, well, add value to them. And by adding value, one thing that you can do is give them a little extra incentive, right? So give them a buyer's commission. If maybe they got the listing, so they're getting 3% or something, we'll give them an extra 0.5% or 1% or just a straight $5,000 or something like that. Guess what? That's going to set you apart on these off-market deals. When everybody else is just expecting the off-market deal, and you go, hey, you bring me something off-market, I'll give you an extra $10,000 commission upon closing. That might speak volumes to them. Also doing other things like adding value to them. I see an article on the market that I'm in, positive article about, whatever, job growth, or maybe a company is announcing that they're coming in, or rent growth is a certain amount. I like to send those articles to my brokers, and that way I'm adding value to them. They maybe already saw it, but at least they see that I care about them and that I'm trying to help them out. So doing things like that, referrals. I'm never going to hide a broker from anybody else, because guess what? They're going to find them anyway. So I'm always referring my brokers that I think are solid to anybody else that asks me for a referral in that market for a broker. So doing things like that, going the extra step, is extremely important for your team. I'm going to skip a few, and the next most important, and maybe aligns with the top two that I've already said, is going to be your lender or your broker. Okay. So they're going to help you get the loan. You want to make sure you can actually qualify and get a property. And I know a lot of people go, well, you can buy apartment building. It's based solely on the numbers. Well, that's not true. You still have to be a strong buyer. Now you could potentially bring in partners, KPs, to sign on the loan, but you still have to be able to qualify for the loan. Do they look at the property? Absolutely. That's a huge portion of the loan, but they also look at you as the sponsor or the buyer of the deal to make sure you're strong enough to take down that type of property. So the lender and broker can help you navigate that. They can also, especially like a broker, mortgage broker, they can find the right loan product for you. So if you're going to a local bank, they've got basically one or two products. If you're going to a mortgage broker, they might have all the agency debt options. They might have bridge loans. They might have the local banks. They might have mezzanine. So they've got all kinds of different debt that they can get you into. Can be really helpful. And again, they can help you navigate those waters to make sure that you're on the right page. The other thing is they can help you look at your deal. They're another set of eyes. You know, if you're looking at a deal and you think you're only going to put 25% down, they quickly can tell you, no, look, you have to put 30% down to hit your debt service coverage ratio. That can save you huge when you're going to raise money and all of a sudden you've got to come up with an extra 5% or maybe 10% because you didn't know and they were able to help you. So really important part of your team. Attorney, extremely important once you actually get the deal under contract, right? And before that too, quite frankly, but attorney is extremely important when you do get the deal under contract. I do syndications. So I'm dealing with, SEC regulations. We are making sure that we've got all our ducks in the row. I've got investors, and it's really important for me to be able to mind my investors' money properly. And so you want to make sure that you've got the right attorneys. That's really important. Not just any attorney. Any attorney sometimes will tell you they can do everything, right? But you want a securities attorney to do a syndication, right? A securities attorney is going to be specialized and understand the ins and the outs of the securities laws and know how to put a PPM together and know how to set everything up to protect you and, more importantly, to protect your investors from any harm. So super important. You also have potentially closing attorneys, depending on what state you're in, or title companies. So you want to make sure they know title work. Big difference between title work and suing somebody for having too hot of a coffee cup, right? Big difference there. So you want to have the right attorneys and you want to engage with them prior to doing business. And I would say, especially if you're looking at syndicating, prior to even starting to talk to investors, you should have a conversation with a securities attorney to understand the languages you can and can't use and understand the type of communication you can have with people. Where can you post it? How can you post it? I see people posting on Facebook, some posts that maybe aren't quite where they should be, and having the right team member in place is going to help you with that. So a person actually just recently, I suppose it's been 6 months now, got busted for, they were doing, I think it was a $450,000 raise, and they were advertising on Facebook, accidentally, well, probably purposefully on Facebook, but they didn't, I doubt they knew the rules, and they ended up getting slammed by the SEC. I even saw yesterday somebody posting about a deal and they need a money partner. Well, you can't do that. And if you had the right team member in place, if you already built your power team, you would know that and you would avoid some of those mistakes and potentially big fines that come with it. And reputation. This business is all about reputation. If you don't have the right people in place, your reputation is going to be tarnished pretty quickly. I'll go back to property managers too. Property managers are extremely important for getting the right loan, especially if you're going to be investing out of state. If you've got a poor property management company or no property management company in place, you might not even get the loan. So extremely important if you've got a good property management company to be a part of this deal, you're going to have a lot better opportunity to get the loan And the other thing is make sure you get them involved quickly enough. You hear every once in a while about somebody who bought a property without engaging with the property management company, and they do it after closing, and that's where they see all the big mistakes. I'm dealing with somebody right now who purchased a commercial building without getting a professional inspector to walk through the property. And that's an extremely important person, as a property inspector. They didn't hire him. And guess what? They're going to have tens of thousands of dollars worth of extra work that they didn't know about. They've got fuse panels. They've got all kinds of electrical issues. They've got plumbing issues. They've got venting issues, all kinds of stuff. And that could have all been avoided if they would have hired a property inspector. Let's talk about insurance agents. Really important. We can think, oh, we can just find anybody, but you want to find somebody that knows and understands commercial real estate. You want to find somebody that knows and understands multifamily and what you're truly looking for. It can explain the differences to you, because poor insurance can really get you into trouble. So having the right insurance, extremely valuable. So having the right insurance agent is also very valuable. Don't just price shop. Price is important, but also service and what you're getting is just as important. Who else? Your investors, your partners, extremely important if you're going to be doing syndication, obviously. So make sure they're a big part of your team. Make sure you're communicating with them and getting ways to add value to them. If you're adding value to your investors and potential investors, they're more than likely going to want to stick around, right? But if you're not adding any value and everybody else is adding more value, you're going to kind of get forgotten. So make sure you add value and build relationships. Do things that are going to get you on their radar. With all of these, and I'll say it right now, with all these, don't be annoying, but make sure that you're consistent and make sure you communicate. I would be setting up like a MailChimp account. I would be setting up a contact list where you're making contact with brokers, with investors, with different people on your team. And that way you can track how often you're contacting them. If you haven't talked with anybody, these people on your list, especially some of the most important ones, if you haven't talked to them in 3, 4, 5 months, guess what? You're not being remembered and you're not doing it, in my opinion, the right way. So another really important one is your contractor, right? They're potentially important, especially if you're doing a value add right up front. So contractors, extremely important. Appraisers, you want appraisers to be able to tell you the value of the properties. Appraisers also can find deals, because guess what? A lot of people, when they're selling their building, they're going to contact an appraiser to find out the value, and the appraisers then know who's selling and who's not. A 1031 specialist, somebody you don't contact the day you buy, somebody you contact well before you sell, so you understand if you can sell, what your liability is, and how you can potentially exchange that into another building without any tax implications. Of course, accountant would be very important right from the start. Having an accountant, so we know how do we set up our LLCs along with our attorney. How do we set up our LLCs? What are we looking at for tax consequences? What are we going to be able to do in order to lower our tax burden? The other thing, of course, cost seg specialist. There's cost seg engineers. They'll come in and they'll pick apart every little piece of the building and tell you how long that'll last. And you get great tax benefits. I believe there was already somebody talking about cost seg. So if you missed that, you should go back to the videos and watch that. I believe it was Yona, if I'm right. So anyways, he was talking about cost seg, super important, great avenue to take if you're buying larger buildings. Now, if you're buying single families, duplexes, fourplexes, likely cost seg doesn't make any difference to you. It's just too expensive to hire somebody to do it. But if you're buying larger buildings, cost seg is going to play a critical role. An environmental specialist. right? We've got to actually make sure we don't have an environmentally hazardous property. So we want to be able to hire them on as well. And the last thing, and there's plenty more, but an asset manager. And we might not be hiring an asset manager right away, but eventually you might want an asset manager. And what an asset manager does is they manage the manager, they manage the property, they make sure things are put in place. They're basically keeping the property in line and making sure it's running smoothly. And they can do that over multiple properties. So, all right. So Brandon, I don't know if you're there, but that's all I got.
Yep, I'm here.
All right.
Excellent.
Hopefully I didn't ramble too much, man. Hopefully I added some value to the listeners.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's always a difficult thing when trying to hire people. I've done, many times myself, deciding, what you need. I particularly like the point about hiring before you need it, hire for the future, not for the present. Actually, we just had a conversation here in the office about that, how that facilitates growth, because you want to keep those people busy. And so not that you want to create a vacuum necessarily, but it does push you to make sure, they're busy in growth, and it just creates scale automatically just by hiring for the future. So
yeah, absolutely. It forces you to really think critically about what your business is doing and what your needs are. And then when you hire that person, again, like you said, you want to make sure if you hire somebody to work 40 hours, you want to give them 40 hours of work. You don't want them playing video games just to keep themselves busy. So you're doing everything you can to continue to expand your business.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that prevents you from scaling is you yourself being too busy to scale. I mean, that's always what holds us back. And so hiring before you really need it, that's what's keeping you from scaling. You may not even realize it until you hire that person. Then you're like, oh, wow, man, I actually have time to be the visionary, like you talked about before, really drive the direction of the company, because I'm not focused on the minutia, which is really, where we get bogged down, like doing cabinet designs or, creating invoices and stuff like that, so it's easy to, do that. So
very
excellent.
Easy. And most of us, when we hire before we think we're ready, we're actually way beyond being ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is, if you're thinking about the hiring, you already need to hire somebody. Yeah. That's a great point. And just a couple questions that I had for you. Who's the first person that you hired, or what position would be, not what person, but what position did you first hire? Was it an assistant or?
Yeah, it was an assistant. The assistant did a few things. They did my bookkeeping. That was really important to get off my shoulders. They did all the bookkeeping, the payroll, I shouldn't say payroll, paying contractors, getting lien waivers from contractors, doing stuff like that. The first person I hired was when I was still doing flipping. So they were, contacting new contractors, helping build those relationships. So doing a lot of little tasks, the day-to-day tasks, and then keeping the books clean.
Yeah. That's very important. And then, how did you first determine, I guess, what they would do? I mean, you went down through that list of kind of what you do daily and prioritizing those between, 1 to 10, and then get rid of those 1 and 2s. But really, I guess, whenever I go to hire somebody, it's I do so many things. It's trying to cycle it down to okay, do this, in what order, and letting go of that, because I kind of like control of things. I'm kind of a perfectionist in that sense. So how do you go about determining their day-to-day tasks?
Yeah, that's really challenging. And I'm the same way. I have a hard time letting go of things because, quite frankly, I mean, most of us can do it better oftentimes than somebody else, at least right away. Once we finally let it go, then we figure out, oh, wow, they are actually better at this than me after they learn it. But it takes a little while to get there, so we just don't want to let it go. So, when I first hired somebody, I didn't have that whole step process that I talked about. That was, again, really given to me by somebody else. But I did something similar. I mean, I would write down what I really wanted to get off my plate and try to create a kind of a job list. And quite frankly, my first hire, everything I did wrong. I mean, I didn't think about it nearly enough. And I think it's important. That's why, like, this might not be an exciting topic, but it's just extremely important topic for people to understand. For me, it wasn't an exciting topic, so I didn't spend any time on the topic, and I just tried to hire somebody because I thought I would know how to hire, and you don't. I mean, you need to take really and put time and effort and thought. Be thoughtful about what you're trying to give away and what you're trying to really achieve. What are you trying to achieve? I think that's the most important part. What are you trying to achieve by hiring somebody?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and where do you want to be? Again, hiring for the future. What are you trying to achieve now, and what are you trying to achieve in the future, and how do you get there? Connecting those dots. You kind of went down through some of the people that you need on your team, and kind of some of the things that I'd take away is, like, you said, assistant or a partner. So that's one level. So the closest level would be like partnerships, where you're sharing the business. And then under that, professionals that are like, your attorneys or your property managers, and then your contractors, and then, and then employees under that. So kind of that some of your day-to-day tasks. So, we can't all do it ourselves. And, if you're in syndication, if you've been in syndication, you know that you can't do it all yourself. There's just way too much paperwork and underwriting and, touring deals and doing comp analysis and, P&L statement. I mean, it's just endless. You just cannot do it all yourself. You have to have a strong team. So definitely, I know that you said this may not be an exciting topic, but it is exciting. I always like, talking about, staffing and HR and stuff like that. So,
every time I've given away something, hired somebody to do something or got a subcontractor or whatever in to do it, it's always expanded my business almost immediately, grow my business to be able to. When I was doing a lot of flipping, I started out doing the majority of the work myself, and I could do a couple houses at a time and take a long time to do them. And then I started hiring some people, and I'm kind of doing a lot of the work myself. And when I finally was like, look, I got to stop. This is madness. That's when I was able to all of a sudden go from doing 1 to 2 properties at a time to now doing 15 properties at a time. And it's like, what was I waiting for? You're banging your head against the wall because you don't want to, because you know what, quite frankly, it costs me money, right? It costs money to hire somebody else when I can just do it myself. But in the end, it's actually costing you opportunity, which that is even more money.
Well, that comes back to the visionary discussion that we had. So, like, I don't want to say anybody can do contracting work, but more people are able to do the plumbing and the framing and electrical, but less people are able to be the visionary behind the real estate business. And that's where you have to say, okay, what's the best and highest use of my time? And so, yes, it's going to cost me money, but my volume just went up. So maybe I lost 25%, profits, but I increased my volume by 50%. So I'm actually making more money and I have less stress, so making more money, less stress. I mean, but it's that initial, like, you're just looking at the bottom line of that project and saying, what's going to cost more? And our initial thinking is, the cheaper I do it, the better, right? But it's not always the case.
Right. I got to save some money and make sure I make my profit, which it's extremely important to make your profits. But if you can if you do one project and make $25,000 and hiring it out, instead you make $15,000 or $10,000, but you can do 4 times the amount of projects. Guess what? You made more money hiring it out. And that's like 99% of the time what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Todd, thank you so much for joining us today, and great discussion. Thank you for putting that all together for us. It's always a pleasure. And what is the next conference you're going to be at? I know we saw each other in Nashville. That was the last one we personally met up on. You got any coming up that people can meet up with you at?
Yeah, so I am hosting a live conference in Minneapolis area. Okay. I should have put that on this little slide here, but I was apparently lazy and didn't do it. The conference website is nreconference.com. So it's nreconference.com. It's North Star Real Estate Conference. And it's September 20th and 21st in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis area, Minnesota. It's going to be warm, by the way, then. Usually it's not, we don't have snow. So if people are scared of the snow and cold in the frigid north, it should be still nice. You'll see beautiful fall colors at that time of the year. So that'll be great. We have cool, nice, crisp air. No humidity, perfect. So come on, enjoy the weather. We're going to have some great speakers at the event. The lineup's on our website. Right now, we have an early bird discount. They type in early bird, and they'll get $100 off. So it's early bird to get $100 off. I'm going to be speaking at it, and I've got a great lineup of other people at the event. So I would invite people to go look at that, and I'll for sure be there. I'm sure I'll be at some other conferences too. I'm going to Adam Adams has a conference in October. I believe it's October 3rd through the 5th in Denver. I'll be at that conference as well.
All right, excellent. And I put the link in the comment section, and I also put the promo code in there as well. So click on that link. It takes you right to the homepage for the NRE conference. And Todd, thanks for joining us, and hope you have a good rest of your day, and look forward to hearing about how you grow this coming year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on. Can I plug myself one more time?
Go ahead.
All right. So anybody who wants to get in touch with me about passive investing, they can reach out to me on my website, venturedproperties.com. My email is also, it's just Todd, Todd, and then it's at venturedproperties.com. And then I also am starting some mastermind group stuff, and I do some coaching. So anybody interested in that, learning more about that, feel free to reach out. You can go to coachwithdex.com, or you can go right through our main website as well. So that's it. That's all I got to have to say. So, and
I put your website there in the comment section, and also your email as well, so people can click directly on that link and get right to you.
Perfect. Appreciate it. You have a fantastic rest of the day.
All right. You as well, Todd. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.